All right, Roneil of Audius, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
So let's dive in this way. Audius is a music streaming platform, but make it crypto or decentralized. What does that actually mean? You know, I noticed I went to the App Store and I downloaded Audius, and at least that first few screens you see, there's not even a mention of crypto or blockchain. Is that by design? How do you explain to people, here's how Audius is different from other music platforms?
Yeah, so that is by design, and the key differences really come down to, from the artist and creator perspective, you getting this direct channel with your fans. So in most music platforms, you don't know who your fans are, where they are, how they found your music, how much they're engaging with it, and you have no way to reach them either, right? There are people who have millions of fans on Spotify, but email lists of like 5,000 people, right? And that the way that the sort of distribution toolchain around music is structured has always kind of kept artists very distant from those fans. So we explain it with those benefits first. We say, hey, here's a place you can build a fan base where you own the relationships with them. No one can take those relationships away from you, and you can do anything you want with them. Mm-hmm. And that seems to really resonate with artists, right? After building up followings on many platforms over time, and then having them go by the wayside. Even going back to like MySpace, that was the first place that like social music sharing started to break out, and people were kind of tired of it, right? So the pitch that you can build your following once and it's never going to go away from Audius, people get really excited about.
You don't lead with crypto, in other words.
No, not at all. The majority of our users don't even know there's any crypto there. So we ask them to try and understand this, but they're using a fully decentralized product.
What's cool about that, I mean, I've been covering crypto since 2011, and for so long you'd hear about the killer app, and you'd also hear there was a popular soundbite of, eventually, blockchain will function behind the scenes and people won't even know they're using it. And it's like, for most things, that still isn't really the case. Everyone knows. I mean, even in the NFT world, there's still a lot of friction where, well, you're trying to tell someone who doesn't understand crypto how to do it, and you say, you need to buy some ETH at an exchange, you need to put it in your Chrome browser wallet, then you go to an NFT site. You guys are actually an example of blockchain and crypto functioning on the back end without the users necessarily knowing it.
Because users don't care. Look, there's a great user base of people in crypto now, but Audius alone is 6 million people listening every month. There's no way we could have gotten to that size just off of the crypto community. I think the entire crypto community, like MetaMask, is probably the best source of data to infer that sizing. It's like 10 million people, so we'd have to be 60% of crypto. So I think that's what's, you're absolutely right. There's this disconnect between being decentralized for the sake of being decentralized and what do users actually want. And if you can put decentralization as the means of achieving what users actually want, you just tell them that this thing does what they want, and they don't care how that's done. I think that's where
how the sausage works. Yeah. Yes. And let's drill down a little bit. I don't want to get too granular, but just one question about the tech. I mean, what does it mean when we say that Audius is decentralized? Is it that the song files are on blockchain and stored somewhere? Are there tokens that are involved, and each song represents a token that's parked somewhere? How do you explain to people, here's the crypto element, when they do want to understand it?
Yeah, and we do treat it as almost this onion that people can peel back, right? So to get that base level usage, you don't need to know these things, but we try and leave the breadcrumbs to lead the right users towards, getting more deeply involved. So when we say we're fully decentralized, what we mean by that is the entire operation of the product and the network is by the community. If our company went away tomorrow, the company founded by me and my co-founder that was the initial project team that built this, everything would keep working. So that's everything from the way changes to the code around Audius happen, to the way the content is hosted, to the way that metadata is searched and propagated. The community around Audius has figured out how to decentralize all of those things. So pointedly to your question, I guess all of the above to what you suggested, like the song files, the metadata, user interfaces. So, a lot of folks don't realize actually that our interface at audius.co is no longer the majority of driving the majority of traffic to the broader network. So it's been just really cool to see at every layer of that stack, the network is fully decentralized.
Yeah, that is amazing. I mean, let's talk about the social sharing element. We at Decrypt have covered various developments for you guys. For example, being able to display Solana NFTs via Audius now. That's one of the latest pieces of news. I mean, so what does that look like? It's beyond just a music streaming platform. There's also an element of looking at the pieces of content that I own that I know are permanent on blockchain somewhere.
Yeah, the broader guiding principle for our community is to be kind of the clearinghouse for all artist-fan interactions, right? So streaming is the base of your relationship with your favorite artist, right? You like their music, so you're going to go listen to it. But from there, we want Audius to enable any form of interaction that the artist wants to have with their fans. So yeah, the NFT news was really exciting because it allowed artists to aggregate NFTs issued across any number of providers. We support both Ethereum NFTs and Solana NFTs. And then within Solana, like Metaplex NFTs and Burnt NFTs, and like all of the different mechanisms for issuing, right? Again, the users don't care, right?
Yeah.
They want to go to one place and find them all.
And also just know that it works.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why Audius isn't an NFT issuer. It isn't a social token issuer thing. It isn't any of these things. It's the utility and the distribution that makes those things interesting, right? And giving artists the means to use that distribution in the way that they see fit, and in a way that builds value back to the operators of the Audius network and Audius ecosystem. That's really where we're focused.
Do you have a set of requirements that artists have to agree to get onboarded? Like, if someone's music is on Audius, it's because they've opted in and they understand that this is going to be more than just we list their music. They're going to, you kind of get out what you put into it. Earlier today we were talking with Rally, which is creator tokens.
Oh, yeah.
And the idea is, if someone's on Rally, they understand that it's not as simple as just we have a token tied to them. They engage, they do offers, they say you can use your tokens to go to a concert. To what extent are you kind of talking to artists who are on Audius ahead of time saying, well, here's what we'd expect?
Mm-hmm. So we don't require or expect anything of them, but the evidence and what you just described is clear to anyone that looks at the network. The biggest artists on Audius are not necessarily the biggest everywhere else. They're the ones who've put in the most work and the most energy developing a following here and engaging with them and giving their fans things to do and things to hang out with one another around and engage on. So, but yeah, I mean, Audius is open to anyone to use however they see fit, right? I think the progression we typically see with artists is they put one track here, see what happens. And if that goes well, then they upload a few more tracks. Then they start to run remix competitions. They start to find different ways to engage their fans. So it's almost like this, you want that initial thing that someone does to get engaged with a product to be as small as possible, right?
Yeah.
And
it's the entryway.
Yeah, and that, at least for I think the Audius ecosystem has worked well for the most part so far. But I think we welcome artists of any and all size, engagement level, anything. There are over 100,000 artists on Audius today. Well,
and not to put you on the spot, but who are some of the musicians that have shown the kind of most engagement with their fans on Audius that you think have used it right?
Yeah, so the earliest folks on Audius, like RAC, Blau, Deadmau5, there's an early cohort of folks that signed onto the network, in like 2019, 2020. Those are the ones who have the largest followings today because they've just been putting in that work over time. Lido is another one that comes to mind. He's a both producer of his own content and produces for other folks in hip hop. And he actually invented the remix competition mechanic. So that was not something native to the product, but he uploaded a track marked it as downloadable, so you can flag a track in Audius as being downloadable by the community. And then he uploaded all of what are called the stems of the tracks, the little pieces of drum kits and other things that made the track. And then he said, just put a hashtag tag on your track when you upload it for this remix competition, and then I'm going to search that and do a Twitch stream, like listening and live reacting to all of them.
Oh, wow.
And it went so well. I think he ended up, it actually was an Instagram live stream. He ended up being live for like hours longer than he planned to because there were just so many remixes uploaded. His fan base just went wild.
Well, and there's a real TikTok element to this too. I mean, when you can put up a TikTok and say, stitch this, and people respond. And
yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, the social aspect to music creation and music engagement is something that hasn't really existed since SoundCloud fell by the wayside like 5-6 years ago.
I liked SoundCloud a lot, and I was actually going to ask you, I mean, in many ways it's unsurprising, but you guys in press coverage just get framed as, a decentralized Spotify, or Spotify, but crypto. Do you see it that way? Do you think of it as we're trying to compete with Spotify as a matter of size, or do you just think, look, we're doing our own thing and rising tide lifts all boats, we're part of the industry? I mean, what is it that you're kind of aiming for big picture?
Yeah, the way I like to explain the sort of music distribution ecosystem is to draw a comparison to video, right? You have Netflix, Hulu, things like that at one end of this spectrum of production value or professionalism around the content, and then YouTube is kind of at the other end, right? And Netflix and YouTube are not competing with each other, right? They're just different. It's like a different mode of engagement. Sure, they're both video, but like that's kind of a very reductive view of like what is, what am I distributing, right? And going to one place to watch, your like tech reviews, or like I like to watch this guy Linus Tech Tips, and another place to watch your like TV shows and movies doesn't feel like unreasonable. In music, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music all serve that professional end of the spectrum really well. So you actually can't upload things directly to those as a creator. Like you have to go through a third-party distributor that places the content there. Those streaming networks control all of the data around the engagement, and
there's a real barrier for entry to small artists.
There's just a vacuum right now at the other end of that spectrum in music. There's no great place to socially engage with your fans, upload, short form, interesting things, unfinished things in a lot of cases. Like one of the most interesting use cases we've seen for Audius is folks will release these subsequent works in progress of a given track and get feedback from their audience about it. So they'll try different things and re-upload it and see how people engage and respond. That tight feedback loop and that immediate like dopamine hit that people can get when they see something they made, like just go viral and get engaged on and excited, get their fans excited. That's just super different, right? So we, tying back to your question, like see ourselves much more as competitive with SoundCloud than we do with
Bandcamp. I remember.
Yeah, I actually think that direct artist fan engagement, that's where we think things are really interesting and where there's a lot of greenfield in the market. I think if you're like a huge pop star and you're releasing your album that you've spent 2 years making with a world-class production team, everything else, like Spotify is great for that. If you want to upload like the weird rough voice cut that you took in your bathroom, like on your iPhone, that's a great place for Audius. And that's why there's so much engagement here too, is because there's just no one else trying to serve that market or that need.
So we shouldn't expect to necessarily see Taylor Swift on Audius.
I think you might. I think every artist will be on Audius in the future, but they probably aren't going to be uploading the exact same thing to Audius. They upload to other places. It's just different. It's a different medium, and just like TikTok is not competing with YouTube. I don't think. Well, now YouTube has their little shorts.
Right. Eventually, everyone's gonna compete with everyone.
Everyone. It's like the joke about stories, right? That feature. Everyone adds stories to their product,
and no one cared that it was not original. Eventually, everyone just has it. Yeah, it's totally true.
But,
it's such an interesting project. I appreciate you talking to us about it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Roneil.
Yeah.